Welcome to Refinery Injury Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Refinery Injury Podcast with Brooks Harrison. Brooks is a Texas trial attorney dedicated to representing refinery and plant workers who suffer catastrophic injuries in explosions, fires, and chemical accidents across the South. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're talking about traumatic brain injuries caused by refinery accidents and the long-term challenges workers and their families face after this kind of life-changing injury. Brooks, welcome back.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, first, let's start off with this. Can you explain exactly what a traumatic brain injury, or some people say TBI, what these are and how refinery accidents tend to cause them?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple. A TBI is a outside blow to the head or to the head region, which creates a medical occurrence that essentially shakes the brain, essentially traumatizes the brain in some way. And of course, a refinery is just like even around the house. There are a lot of dangers that could result into a TBI. Slipping and falling is one of the biggest. Stairs are one of the biggest culprits that we see in TBIs. And you walk along and you take out a pipe rack. That's why you have head protection. So always wearing your head protection is a big part of avoiding TBIs as well.
Absolutely. What are some of the most common symptoms of a TBI?
Disorientation is your primary symptom. Feeling weakness amongst your entire body, getting a little sleepy. Oftentimes, after following a TBI, the worker is found to be wanting to doze and wanting to lay down and relax, and that's actually the opposite that you should allow that worker to do.
I've heard that before. I've played enough sports in my life. I've heard that if you get a concussion, don't lay down and close your eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the shock and the potential bleed. It's essentially a baby aneurysm.
Mm-hmm. From the clients that you've worked with that have these traumatic brain injuries, how do they affect a worker's ability to return to the job?
TBIs, generally speaking, resolve upon themselves. It's you get essentially you get concussed. You go through your concussion protocol, whatever your safety or your company has or your medical treater provides, and you slowly return to work. And it's usually about a 7-day period where you have to sit out. Other times, the traumatic brain injury is a little more traumatic. There's a little more force involved. I had one individual who was involved in an explosion and fire. That explosion threw the individual backwards where they hit their head on tile and ceramic. That severely concussed that client. That ended up leading to actually a brain lesion. So that concussion and TBI resulted into a brain lesion, which is now requiring a whole different set of doctors and a whole different prognosis. In all honesty, it's the severity of that event is absolutely life changing for that particular client.
Yeah, when you say life changing, what are some of the things you see long term that will affect people after these TBIs?
I mean, it's usually most of these folks are out working to make a living, and so when you take away their ability to make a living, which a TBI can, it creates a massive economic hole and despair within that family, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about, and one of the reasons that we moved to this podcast is I'll be able to bring on the folks that do step in and help these families. We have folks all over the country that we've created this team, and we can bring in financial folks who can come in and make sure that family is able to survive for the pendency of their litigation or their lawsuit. We have, I mean, whether it's on the medical side or whether it's on the economic side or whether it's counseling for the families, we do everything we can to make sure those families are put in the best possible position to succeed now and in the future.
You know, you said you've been doing this a long time. I believe you said since 2004.
Yes.
there's a lot of attention now on, or a lot more attention, I should say, on traumatic brain injuries, on head injuries. A lot of it, I think, has come from sports. Anybody who's a sports fan, you know that they take it a lot more seriously than they did in the past. I remember getting my bell rung as a kid.
That's what I was
People,
about to say. Didn't they used to step in and say, you got your bell rung?
give you some smelling salts, or
Get back out
just
there.
rub some dirt on it, toughen up, all that. Have you seen a real shift in in the way that refineries, that employers take, in how serious they take it, given all of this new attention?
Generally speaking, no, they don't. I would say there are a few sites that do, but generally speaking, it's kind of the same of back whenever we were playing ball, and it was more or less, hey, rub some dirt on it, get your ass back out there, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see it today at the refineries. I see, you're not hurt that bad. It's not that big of a deal. Rub some dirt on it, spit some tobacco juice on it, and get back out there.
Hmm.
And that's to this day what I actually see.
Does that surprise you, or is it just the nature of the industry?
I think it should be surprising, but at the end of the day, it's not surprising. It's more or less the culture that I come from. I come from the Southeast Texas culture. I born and raised in Deer Park and Pasadena areas, and it's a different breed down there, and that's where you see a vast majority of refinery workers coming from those areas, and for better for worse, they it might be just a tougher group of folks out there, to be honest with you.
Why does seeing a doctor quickly matter so much for both treatment and for the documentation, should you need it later on when you have a brain injury?
I mean, definitely with the TBI, with the traumatic brain injury, you clocked yourself. You just never know those things. I mean, we have seen folks that are hit on the head by some object or something that maybe to you or I would not really be anything. And one individual in particular just had some small motor oil, the little few ounce ones, very not very big at all. They fell off from a rack, landed on his head. There was about 6 or 7 of them that hit him. He was an older guy. He was looking to go into retirement. Um, he ended up with a pretty severe TBI, and ended up in full litigation over that incident. And it was far worse than any of us could have imagined, especially when we first signed the case up. I did not foresee the case of being that severe, which is why it's so important to go to the doctor,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, whenever it gets to people like me, I require experts, and in these many cases, the experts are doctors. Almost all these cases, the experts are doctors, but we have liability experts as well. We'll talk about that later. But the expert doctors are essentially the folks who are making your claim. They are making the claim on my behalf. It's my job to take their technical medical terms and to put them into common sense language for the jury. And so, no, we're constantly surrounded by experts, and reporting your incident in the very beginning is just a continuation of doctors and experts being involved on the back end as well.
A lot of this, I think anyway, it seems like they're harder to see. Can't see it. You don't see it. You see a broken arm, you see cuts and that kind of stuff. You can't really see the same way a TBI is. Does that make it harder for you to prove the injury when you have to go to litigation?
It doesn't necessarily make it harder, but it requires the medical evidence. So I have to have that medical evidence, or either we're going to get booted right out of the courthouse.
Hmm.
Without the medical evidence, you have no claim. Even if you have 500 people that saw you do it, if you have no medical evidence, you really have no damages.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do I mean, obviously we've talked. I think we talked a little bit about this already. That trying to demonstrating the full impact on a worker's life and future that this has is kind of impactful. How do you do that? In a court, especially thinking that perhaps like a jury they might lean that tough guy thing too, right?
Well, at the end of the day, that is my job in relating to the jury, and to put my client on through his testimony in the best possible light that we can. And I mean, that's one of the things we do quite well, and that's one reason that we've had the success that we've had. We're certainly not going to go try a case that we seriously think has an opportunity to get poured out and get a big zero. We're never going to do that. Um, if we're trying a case, we think that we're about to tag them. So at the end of the day, that is the key is to hold their feet to the fire and plan for everything to go to trial and plan to go tag them at trial.
Specifically, what type of experts do you typically call?
Specifically liability experts. So it just depends on the nature of the claim. Let's say it's a fire claim, and so you're going to need structural experts. You're going to need structural engineers out. You're going to need and actually a fire origin expert, which we recently used in a pretty big claim. Um, you're going to need, if there's going to be any extended medical claims, you're going to need a life care expert who actually sets up like in a severe TBI. Um, we had a 9-year-old that was severely injured and had severe brain injuries, and it was going to be about $1 million a year to care for this child, probably for the remainder of their life, however long that was going to be. Um, that's where a life care plan expert vendor will come in and will set up that life care plan, and then that is what we will present to the jury and be able to show these are the costs to this family, to this individual for the bad acts of the other side.
How do you're sure it's probably usually the insurance companies on the other side. How do they counter what you say is a general rule, especially if you have the medical evidence there? Do they have their own medical experts that say something else?
Believe it or not, so many of these large refineries are self-insured, and I know that sounds crazy, but
That's
whenever they're owned, they own, they're big owners within insurance companies and throughout finance, some of the richest countries in the world. But oftentimes, yes, I'd say over probably half the time we do deal with insurance companies at the refineries. They do like any other insurance company. They look for every single possible hole they can run down and avoid paying. And I would say that's the case whether or not we're dealing with an insurance company or we're dealing directly with the refinery. They will use their engineers. They'll use their wealth of knowledge and their war chest to do everything they can not to pay. And it's crazy because I've actually seen them pay more money in expenses trying to disprove something they knew they weren't going to disprove rather than just paying the claim.
yeah.
But again, it's not my money. It's not the side that I sit on. So I'll sit over here with the workers and keep tagging them.
I like that. Do you see different approaches? Do you see different like are there some refineries that will really have their employees' backs at least more so than others?
Are there many professional baseball teams that will have the backs of their uh, pitchers and catchers and infielders and outfielders whenever they get hurt? Probably not. I mean,
Mhm.
it goes back to everybody's essentially their own corporation, their own independent contractor, even though they're working for an independent contractor. It's gotten to the point where it's pretty much everybody is on their own and everybody for themselves. And I don't think that's a great place to be, but that's where we are.
Yeah, it's really sad to hear that. That's disappointing, certainly.
I mean, what you do see is you'll see a lot of workers, a lot of independent contractors, a lot of journeymen out there, and they'll have a group that they work with. So that group kind of becomes a unit, and they go from job site to job site. You see a lot of that, and then you see a lot of crossover with familiar faces. So over years, you get to know these guys, and you get to be comfortable with their work and how they do things. Um, and it's just like that in any other group project. But But no, it's a different life that these guys live.
Yeah, for sure. In the last episode, we ended by me asking you, given that this is a podcast, it's a platform where you want to like educate people, obviously. I asked you about what people who deal with chemical burns, chemical exposure, what you'd like them to know. Is there anything in particular that you would like people to consider, to think about when it comes to traumatic brain injuries that, maybe just some food for thought?
It comes down to every injury. Take the injury seriously. I know you got to hurry up, and I know you got to get on the next job. I know you got to keep the checks coming in. I know you got to keep feeding the family or make your truck payment, whatever it may be. But seek help, seek medical advice, at least get it recorded and hang on to that, throw it in your damn drawer, forget about it. But at least have it and at least have knowledge of those exposures or of those strikes to your head or whatever it may be. I mean, I've seen folks work through concussions. It's probably not a good idea, but it happens. And always get those concussions documented as well. And go through your safety protocol and get it over with.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for listening to today's episode of the Refinery Injury Podcast. If you or someone you love has suffered a traumatic brain injury from a refinery accident, visit refineryinjury.com to learn more about your options and how Brooks and his team can help. As Brooks said, take these seriously. This is a big deal. Don't delay on that. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We've got lots more great information coming your way. Brooks, always great chatting with you. Thanks so much for all the insight.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.